that whole, why are the female Native Indians going missing? And apparently because they tried to get out. They tried to basically get out. So they wound up being picked up, or and they were all women who were trying to get out of their communities because of how they felt, and how their obligations, uh, you know, how their obligations wound up in their society and their structure, and they're gone. They're missing. They're just completely gone. And it's such a sad story, and especially since they're all women, it's such a
you're
sad
welcome,
story.
Michelle.
Um, Michelle, but it was it's an incredible story, and again, it's why the women. Why do we have to keep targeting one demographic? And beautiful women, if you look at their pictures, absolutely striking, just gorgeous women. And I had one friend say, well, they were raped and they were genetically modified and they were this and then that. They're not really truly native anymore. And I'm sitting there going, to just A, they're women. B, they're women of power that they took into their own hands to find another life, and they just didn't succeed in for whatever reason. And C, do we have to criticize the possibly dead? I mean, do we have to do that?
And criticizing them for their genetic composition in terms of being products of historical rape, that's victim blaming to the next level. My God.
Sure.
So I think in terms of change that Melanie was talking about before, one of the nice things, at least in society, is that we seem to be embracing more that people have their own identities, and some of that is how you feel and how you're treated, and not just your biology. Exactly. And not just your genetic inheritance, but it's your lived experience and your community. So who you've identified with and who you've hung out with.
I think it's messed up sometimes. Is like where, there are some people you don't know what race they are, racially ambiguous. And I think, like, I'm into acting. So a lot of the, auditions, they're looking for people who are racially ambiguous, people that can't necessarily identify what race they are. Because people won't judge them
racist because you can't tell.
Exactly. And they won't judge them as much because they don't know how to judge you. So, Mariah Carey is biracial, has a black parent or white parent, but then so does Halle Berry. And it's total differences, so it just depends on how it's played out. But Mariah Carey, if somebody would look at her, they'd be like, oh, they think that she had both parents, were probably white. But
yeah, she's white passing for sure.
So it's like a lot of time I think we're trying to bridge into the whole changes of being mixed or looking mixed, but if you can't see the mixture, then
it shows how arbitrary it is. It shows how completely effing arbitrary it is that Mariah Carey passes as if anybody's issuing passes, but it's still a function of trying to cater to people's prejudices and sometimes work around them, or sometimes challenge them and say, hey, well, actually don't have them. But the kind of people whose job it is to produce ads or to produce shows and who want to broaden their audience as much as possible, they're still making those past decisions and that, okay, let's not trigger. But what I like
That's funny. Let's not trigger.
Not trigger.
Wow.
Well, let's not trigger the racist, because we need to maximize the profit margin. So we want to, keep as many racists on board in our potential audience as possible. So you pander to racists and people who do get triggered by preconceived notions that get triggered, and then help them judge actors or actresses unfavorably. But Black Panther was the highest grossing Marvel movie for a while, and that illustrated to people that it's potentially more lucrative to stop pandering to the racists and instead pander to the opposite, to the forward-thinking change makers, and the appetite for that is actually considerable. So for the producers and the deal makers behind the scenes to learn that lesson in such a visceral way by seeing the incredible financial success of Black Panther, that's how culture moves us forward.
Yeah. And go ahead.
What a beautiful combination you have, Melanie, of genetics. I am definitely going to hit a subscribe for you, because I want to watch you. I really want to watch you.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Oh. It's I think too, dealing with what's going on in like the culture since there were like different protests and riots and different things like that, then ads get on board with that, say, oh, it's trending. So now let's get more of a darker shade person to represent certain things. So it's still flowing with the trends, you know. Where either way it could be a beautiful thing, just depending on the person and what personality they can express through the artwork, what facial expressions they can make. We're all humans. The point can still get made. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Yeah.
This retest can't be traced back. Oh, we're a country of immigrants. Well, exactly. Except and even the Native Americans, there's no guarantee. We had a viewer on at one time that kept calling me a liar and kept really laying in and wouldn't leave me alone because I'm so white. And I'm like, look at my sister. My sister's got the dark, thick hair. My sister's got the olive skin. My sister's got, and so does my mom. The two of them definitely look more Native than anything else. Myself and my brothers look more like my father, the pale skin, the English, Irish, Scottish genetics, and, the French taste for red wine. But it's you can't make that determination. We are so we are so mixed, and why does it even matter? His family does not look German.
No.
We're melting pots. We're all studying genetic melting pots.
You're right. Everybody's a melting pot. Yep.
Yeah. But the reason why the shortcuts exist is that people like to make negative assumptions.
This is your voice from above.
Okay.
Helen Wallace, paging Helen Wallace to the customer service
I love
desk,
your
please.
accent. Get your butt in here.
Helen Wallace to the customer service desk. All right, keep
That's
going.
funny. Rev, your voice is so dope. It's so awesome. I love it.
It's a radio voice.
Yes, it
You can be
is.
attractive or not attractive as you like with that voice. That's money in the
Rev,
bank.
I meant what I said earlier. Men should do makeup more often, and I do have some spare dulling spray if you want to get some off of me. I'll happily send it.
Yeah, I need the dulling spray, and I might have a face for radio, but I got a voice for sexy.
Uh-oh.
Do you know my father?
That was his thing, a face for radio.
He has a face for radio,
Helen.
and grass never grows.
There's Helen. Come on, Helen.
Come on, Helen.
There's Helen. Okay.
Sorry, I saw you before, Helen. I didn't say hello because I think I was caught up in whatever.
That's no problem. Not at all. You're fine.
Hello, Helen.
Hi. Seems to be some kind
There's
of
my favorite accent.
issue. But we're here. How are we doing? It's always difficult to come in mid-conversation. I have no idea what I've walked into.
Okay, we didn't half an hour or so ago either. So.
Aww.
Just make it up as you go along.
Yeah.
Just tell us what we're talking about. We'll keep going.
Well, I'm happy to just join in. I came here with no agenda. I was going to talk about, what International Women's Day is about because, we're all here discussing it and we're celebrating it. But why is there a need for it? And I think we have to come back to, why is there a need for it? I would love to see the day where there isn't a need for it. This has been going since 1911 when suffragettes were a thing. So, I don't know if you want to switch conversations. We've only got 15 minutes before, the night ends anyway. Maybe it's best to just, hi Brett, hi Marcia, hi Katrina. Maybe it's better to just continue with the conversation that you've already started.
I think we wound up sidetracking from women talk to cultural talk, and then we kind of combined the two of them together. And I don't know about the other two, but I think I've lost track.
Yeah, we can talk about women. That's fine.
He's not going to complain.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, no, Helen, that's very valid. When we first started up, when it was just the two screens, we were saying that, Martin and I are in an age bracket where I've gone into menopause, so my male hormones are taking a dominant position so that my menstrual can stop. And because men have a version of menopause as well, and that's when the male hormones drop and a man becomes more and more feminine, and that men are constantly left out because of this, and he struggled with trying to be a man when he couldn't understand what was happening to his body. And it took a while for him to, and he still struggles it once in a while. He still doesn't know how to fight a battle without accessing that aggressive male. But
it comes into overcompensation sometimes, right? Trying to live up to that stereotype.
But let's talk about the word. Let's talk about you've touched on something I would love to pick up on. Let's talk about the word aggression. Now, I work in and have my whole adult life worked in a predominantly male-dominated industry, multiple male-dominated industries. I am a full-time professional photographer. I also host a radio show. I manage a band. I have toured with bands for years. I manage comedians and musicians' diaries. I work within that industry where it's predominantly male dominated. And there are situations where I need to be assertive. As a female,
I agree.
it's seen as aggression. If I was a male, it would be seen as assertiveness. And we really have to address that disparity where there's a double standard in that, sticking up for your rights somehow as soon as you're being aggressive or belligerent or combative in some way, when actually all you're doing is just being forthright. I mean, there are situations where tiny little situations which become frustrating, and the mere, it's even happened on here, where you're like, no, I'm standing my ground, something's happened, it's cheesed me off, I'm going to address it, and you're seen as being aggressive, or you're seen as being, like.
I used to run a festival back in British Columbia, a Renaissance festival, and I outweigh him by a good 40 pounds of muscle mass because, my body isn't like the other women, and I found that it was really easy to swing swords and handle guns and all that kind of stuff. So I started doing that, and we had a co-producer where there wound up being an issue of slander, and that's part of the reason we lost the project. But because I was the owner of the project, I was the key producer, and then Martin and the other producer were under me, so to speak. It was really easy for him to get online and start the slander, and emotionally and physically and financially completely destroy me. And because I was the one swinging the swords, I'm the one with the more muscle. I'm so I'm a big bad woman who beats up on her husband, and meanwhile Martin's sitting there going, geez, if you were to beat up on me in the way that I like, I'd be happy.
Pinky devil.
I know.
But it was so easy to take me down, and he went after me
because that's seen as because you're seen as the easy target.
And jokingly, she started calling herself the moving target, and I think that got taken a little bit too much inside.
So literally,
yeah. I tried to turn it into a joke, and I couldn't do it. It wound up actually destroying me instead of helping me deal with it. And that was a huge thing for me.
Do you ever feel that you're somehow constantly trying to prove that you are just as capable of doing something as your male colleagues?
All the freaking time.
Yes. Helen, you mentioned about being a photographer.
Yes.
So I'm a full-time photographer too. And I go to events sometimes, well, not so much since it's COVID time, but and the guys be trying to get the shot, and you trying to get the shot, and they got more muscle, they got more height. I'm 5 feet.
See, I'm very fortunate. I'm 5'10". It's difficult to come up against me. I'm a big girl.
Man, so I gotta maneuver my little self in front of people, and I'm like, you really don't have to push me out the way. Just let me stand in front of you, and you can get the shot. I can get the shot.
Can I give you a tip?
Go ahead.
Doc Martens with steel toe caps. Your best friend.
That's my Sorry, I had to come in on there. Get you some big old Doc Martens, and that's the way to do it. That's good advice.
No, you just very good advice. Stand on someone's toe occasionally. Stand on someone's foot occasionally.
And they're fashionable, so you're fashionably stepping on their toe.
Yeah, just keep your distance, and it won't happen again.
That's sage advice from a wise woman. That's awesome, Helen.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I will be getting some of those. I actually seen some on sale. I might need to cop those.
To be honest with you, I have been very fortunate in that most of the gigs that I have photographed, I haven't been working for a publication, I haven't had the same restrictions as, being in the pit for the first 3 songs, because I'm usually working for the band themselves. I'm usually, side stage, or I'm up at the, the sound desk, or I'm very seldom ever in the pit. I mean, obviously I did that at the start, but, I'm, like I say, I'm not small, so you're going to have to push me hard to get me out of the way.
But you're so silly. even pushing your weight, meaning like people don't expect you to be, because I've been in events and people don't expect me to be the photographer for the event. They don't expect that. And sometimes you have to show them, hey, I just jumped on stage and you're not on stage. So it's just like you gotta, the guys be trying to show themselves strong, and then you gotta show yourself strong. It's like, okay, now I gotta do some climbing to show you.
I've done that. You know what? So many times, like I say, I manage a band, right? And so many times they think you're just some silly wee groupie that's hanging around the band, and then it comes to payment time, or it comes to contract, or there's some kind of issue with, and like it's the guys will say, you'll have to speak to our manager. You'll have to speak to her,
Good luck.
It's the look. It's like the look of horror on the face. It's like, oh shit, we were just, being an arsehole a minute ago.
How humbling.
Molly made a comment a moment ago. Men are called and women are called bitchy, and I wanted to bring that back if that's okay, because one of the things that pissed me off, especially as a Gen Xer, because we went through that whole 80s of change every word so it means something else, and I always hated that. Why should we have to change the meaning of a word? Why should we have to make it okay for someone to use those words? Bitch is a bitch.
Yeah.
And that's that.
They tried to make it a power word in the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to listen. I'm Scottish. I'm not going to tell you the words that we use, because they're usually highly offensive to Americans, right? And I'm aware that we're an American-centric app, right? So I'm not going to drop the C-bomb, but that's mild.
We already know what it is now.
You missed the part. You missed the part where I said my father's English, Irish, Scottish, Parisian, French, and my mother's French, Canadian, Native Indian. But I have such a dark sense of humor. There were so many kids at school who look at me and go, "What the hell? You're just a child." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I talk like my dad." But in Canada, we've got being the northern cousins to the United States. Sometimes is tough. And we're so different from province to province. I mean, just so. When we lived in British Columbia, I felt like I had moved to another country. I didn't feel like I was still in Canada. I felt like I was literally in another country. It's you can say anything around us. Canadians will just roll with it.
I'm being well behaved.
Oh, okay.
Being well behaved.
Being well behaved.
I'm trying my best to assist. Yeah, it's funny because
do a bitch fest.
Just to there's a couple of things I want to cover, and one of the reasons I wanted Michelle up here was because she's been on the end of this, and obviously women's rights. I don't know how you feel about the term women's rights, right? Because again, I don't think that should even be a thing. I'm all for equality. Like I say, I work in an industry predominantly male. I'm seen as equal within the industry. Obviously there's the odd occasional person, maybe like a promoter or whatever, that's taken aback that it's a woman that's in charge, but for the most part I've earned that. I'm seen as an equal. I'm all for equality. But women's rights, there's some issues are massive, and some issues are just really basic, and things that and I'm aware that we've only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and wrap this and condense it into something that we can all take away from this. I've got a friend who, she's wonderful, and I would like to try and get her on for a chat on Haps one day. Her name's Kate Coppstick. She's mostly known as being the fiercest Edinburgh Fringe reviewer. I don't know how familiar you are with the Edinburgh Fringe, but the Edinburgh Fringe is the world's largest arts festival, and it's where all the comedians go to be discovered. Kate Coppstick is a reviewer, but she also runs a charity in Kenya, single-handedly, for women who have been street workers, but for whatever reason they've fallen into that. Maybe they've been abused, maybe they've been raped, maybe they've been, whatever. Really gritty, hard work. The one extreme end of women's rights and why women are treated that particular way, in a situation where they're in poverty. And then we've got situations that affect us in daily life, something really basic like, just being patronized, or, I mean, I feel like I've gone off on a tangent here.
No. I can pull off of that.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, right? But today we're talking about this thing. We're talking about this Women's Day thing, right? And I was having a conversation in the chat with someone from HAPS, and I said, "You've not got anybody ending it. You've not got anybody, wrapping it up. You've not got anybody hosting for the last half hour. I can do that." Right away, a male on the app jumped in and says, "What time is that on? I can do that." And it's just like, whoa, like I've got this. I'm capable. I can cope with half an hour at the end of, I'm just as capable of doing something as you are. Like I say, I don't want to say any names but that in that moment, what I was being told was, I want this space. I can't have that half hour space because I want that space. And it's just, we have to just be mindful. We just have to just be careful. I've seen instances where people have been fat shamed, body shamed, or they've been, a comment's been made about their race in a joking way, but then when the person said, actually, that's offensive, they're then told, well, they're wrong to be offended because it was just a joke, or they're wrong to be offended because of that reason or whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you've offended someone, listen, take a step back and say, well, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to offend you. It was meant to be a joke. Just, you don't have to be offensive over it. Like, we're all on this app. If you see shit, just call it out.
Yeah.
Don't be part of it, because if you're not, for evil to triumph takes good men to do nothing. And all you've got to do is just say, actually, you're out of order there. There was another incident where someone said something to someone and they said, that's offensive. And the guy says, I don't give a fuck if you're offended. Now, that's not okay. Like, you should be. You should care that you've offended someone.
Yeah.
So we're all on this app.
Offended. Find that person,
We're all a community. We just need to just be mindful of each other's space. And we don't have to infiltrate other people's space. It's great to collaborate. It's great to, be invited in to do something, but you don't have to, you don't have to have everything.
Yeah. Helen, you mentioned something about women, like in the workplace, and like men take some men. It's not all men. We love you, men. Everybody's
men. My best friends in the world are men.
Yes, we love the men. Some men though, they'll, as you said, they'll be offensive to the woman, or be very sexist, or even, you said, even rape has occurred, which is crazy. But like, some men like seeing women mad. The assertiveness they think is sexy. It's actually a song that says you're sexy when you mad, and so it's like an R&B song. But it's like, that shouldn't be a situation that makes, like, you're not being mad to turn the guy on. It's weird. You're just trying to show that you can handle your job, you can be assertive, and you can handle yourself, And
it's like, damned if you do and damned if you don't. You can, I get what you're saying. You can't.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and you were talking about being into acting and stuff. We used to work for Paramount Home Video many years ago, back before you had the facial hair. But one of the characters I did for store openings and product releases was Deanna Troy. So I had the V-necked outfit and everything, and I'd have guys coming up to me all the time, and they'd be like, I bet you know what I'm thinking. Yeah, like, it's difficult. You're looking right down my cleavage.
Oh, come on.
Seriously, I don't even have to have that skill.
Your response to that is, I know what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking micro penis and dusty spunk.
No, usually I ask why his wife is frustrated.
But you've always got to have a quick response to that.
And then I switched and I started doing Judge Dia Dax, and that's when I first realized I had the muscles to do it, and that's when I was trained on the batleth. And I thought, this would be great. I've got a uniform now. I love these, but I really don't want to spend every gig, especially around children. You got to be careful.
She's a power character, not
and it didn't really get me much further, because now they wanted to pick a fight and make me angry and swing swords with me, and I'm like, look, dude, not worth it. You're just not worth it.
Exactly.
You're right. It's just the brain.
Gentlemen.
Oh shoot! I gotta head out, everybody. It's been great.
Bail?
It's nice to meet you, Melanie.
Stick around.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get back on later, but yeah, I got a conference call I gotta take. Yeah,
Right,
but
see me on my show, Melanie.
Okay, women be strong, men be strong for the women.
So we're gonna keep it going. Anybody that wants to stay, Helen, you can reclaim your time that you missed there in the beginning. So everybody, please stay. We've got another guest that I would really like to be able to get on the conversation. So it's all up to you. But yeah, keep going. I'm taking over.
I noticed that. Isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that it's been a male director for the whole day on the HAPS account? Isn't that ironic? No female director.
I made that. I made note of and actually is going to seriously, in all seriousness, talk to everybody about that because it's been men in here all day. So I agree.
Obviously, the HAPS team are different. It's their platform, but it's quite funny that there's no female volunteer that's been behind the scenes. I think that's quite funny.
And I just literally jumped in because it looked like they needed help. So
right, okay.
We all need help.
In more ways than one.
And Rev, what a great choice, especially since your voice is so opposite. It's nice to have that nice broad range.
We have the one viewer, Mr. Okrum, wondering if we can all see his comments. Yeah, we can see your comments. I think he's just not being.
I have missed so many comments, and I am sorry.
There's so many flying through.
Comments. Shall we scroll back and see what we've missed and address?
We've actually missed some interesting stuff. There was a discussion about whether or not men should be able to have babies. And that I think that is great.
It just always reminds me.
I think so many things would change in the world if that were the case.
Yeah, definitely.
It still makes me think of Monty Python. Yeah.
Yes.
In the room. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep in the box.
Oh my God! And that's one of the things too. Is comedy is so progressive. Comedy is actually much more progressive than drama when you think about it, because you just get to laugh, and the reason it's funny is because we can all relate. Yeah, it's amazing how much more comedy gets across.
Exactly. Yeah.
You could have.
Thanks for the shout out.
You're welcome. I've been kind of casually watching the comments, but no, you're right. It would. It seems we've lost Helen again.
Wow.
30 minutes to wrap. Okay. But yeah, it's just like if men could do so much more. But again, like when Martin found out that his hormones were changing, and he battled it for a while, I kind of wonder what would happen if we suddenly were able to give men the ability to carry to term, how that would emotionally affect them. How that would connect to them.
It would definitely be an eye opener.
Helen, I re-invited you. I'm not sure what happened. Michelle, I want to address that question that you had about why can't we direct ourselves? Having directed lots and lots of TV work over the years, individual directors on a thing like this would be really tough because, then why can't I be a director? And you know what I mean? Like to direct your own segments on something like this would be really difficult. I think we should definitely encourage women to do this. This is, from my perspective, I'm just jumping into HAPS, but yeah, we need to recruit more women to be directors. We honestly need to recruit more women to do a lot of things, around here in the capacities that can be served, and that's on us. That's on us guys to make that happen and to include people. So,
if you're going to give me an offer to come to you physically and direct, I'll be happy to.
Once the whole lockdowns have lifted, right?
He said more things around here, right? So I know he meant HAPS. But yeah, actually, I like the fact that you're a director because it's giving the women more of a chance to talk, as opposed to having to worry about being in the position to decide what's up and what's down and who goes first and who goes second. And so I actually kind of like it. It gives us more of a chance to be yappy.
Hey, Kaylee.
Hi.
Kaylee, quietly sitting there waiting.
I have been. I'm still getting used to this platform, and I mean, Revolution is being my introduction to it. So every once in a while, when I can get an idea and hop on whatever he's doing before I start my show tomorrow. I like to hop in, but I never quite know what I'm getting into. So yeah, I've been sitting here quietly just wondering what the conversation is about and who's chatting right now. But I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Kaylee Legrand. I'm up in near Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm an actor, writer. Are you from Toronto?
We are in Toronto, yep. Yeah, we see you're in Burlington, yeah.
Yeah, I just came out to Burlington.
When COVID's done, we have coffee. When COVID's done, we have coffee, okay?
We'll come out to you. You can
we subscribe to each other, everything good.
Yeah, coffee is
We're all in the same industry.
What is it that you do?
We're special skills actors and prop makers predominantly right now, as well as speakers. We do a lot of science fiction conventions to teach people how to make their own cosplays. And the Canadian government has now moved us online to have our own store, which has been quite a challenge because we're used to people sending us drawings and then we build from the drawings. And now we have to try to guess at what people will want and have a store. But the government paid for the web designer. So we're going to give it a try. We're going to try our first online store that's ours completely, as opposed to going through another service. So yeah, Square is going to host it through one of our domains. So that's been quite an adventure. But yeah, we're production people. I've been in the industry since I was 8, and Martin about 16, about 15, 16 years old.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting into theater lighting in high school and working in getting into the industry that way.
So born and raised downtown Toronto, and little Brantford boy
Grew up in Brantford and
small town boy,
Toronto,
big city kid, big city girl, small town boy. Yeah, and we haven't killed each other yet.
It's like a song.
So cool.
Thank you.
That's super exciting. Congratulations. You're making a huge transition. You must be really excited to see how that's going to develop.
It's scary.
I was just going to say, excited, scared, yeah. But definitely optimistic.
You know what? I think that, or at least what I'm telling myself, especially today, because the idea of those scary sensations, I feel like I have been, that's been my day. I've had a lot of unexpected, scary moments that I'm realizing are it's a plethora of opportunities for growth. And I'm thinking that's exactly what you're up against. You're going to just go through an incredible growth experience, and I'm excited for you.
It's the guessing game that's the hard part now, because we're used to everything being designed first, and then we build.
So we normally work on commission, right? So
we're thinking of redesigning. We've been doing wings for years.
Fairy wings.
Like fairy wings, and mechanical, so that they flap. And my Maleficent wings open up to 14 feet. And for a 5'4" woman, that's I don't lean, because if I lean, the wing will hit the ground. But yeah, so we've been doing that, but we've been doing it for ourselves. And productions don't give a damn if something's a mess as long as it works. So we've been thinking of redesigning all of our designs for our mechanical wings and seeing if we can market those. But we have to design it for a customer now, as opposed to a production where we had to set if something goes wrong and we fix it. Now we're trying to figure out how to design it that if it gets shipped to another country or another province or whatever, they're not calling us every day asking us what's wrong. Right. So that's been a huge. That's one of the things we want to take on for ourselves and figure out.
That is so cool. The moment that you said wings, especially, I definitely want to have coffee with you. Not just because I want my own set of 40-foot fairy wings, but because I'm working on a script right now that immediately my mind went to. I'm actually about to go into production for a short film, but I'm developing a feature film that. I am now having all of these ideas spark just listening to the kind of effects that you are talking about, that you do, that I'm going to want to chat with you about for that particular project.
We just moved back to Toronto recently, and it's so good to be home. Yeah. It is so good to be home.
Where did you move from?
Well,
we were out in BC for about 18 years, working in film and stuff out there.
So Earth Final Conflict shut down here. X-Men 1 decided to bring X-Men 2 out to BC. Total Recall 2070 shut down. When Mel Lastman put a lot of taxes, shooting location taxes, to try to make additional money. Yeah, and like I was saying earlier when we first got on, being tech as well as being a performer. As a performer, people have no problems with me. Doing tech, I'm always struggling for the gig. And I always get paid less than him for doing the same job. So, it here's all these geeky sci-fi things that we were making more money off of in a technical aspect, and they were all shutting down because of a bunch of taxes because the mayor got greedy. So we packed up, we sold half our stuff, and then we brought what was left to BC, and we only moved back about a year and a half ago.
And so you came back right before everything started shutting down in Toronto, right before we went into our bubble.
All the work we came back for is not going now. So really frustrated. Wanted fairy wings forever. Well, Kim, subscribe to us. Subscribe to us. If everyone wants to keep talking about, because we've got, I kind of interrupted. I'm so sorry, but go ahead and continue conversation. I'll dig out a photo or two and throw them in. And we want. And there's another thing too. We did a fantasy fair back in British Columbia where we made wings for one of the guy characters, and we were really concerned at first because we wanted to do a male fairy as part of the script. And we were really concerned at first that he was going to be perceived a certain way. And he managed to carry himself physically in such a way that even though he had wings, people had no problems. Like there was very few, we expected a lot of cat calls, but there was actually only like one or two during the whole weekend. And we were actually quite impressed with it. And what we did for him, instead of doing the like the butterfly wings, we did dragonfly wings for him. So the mechanics, basically, they sit like a cape on his back. And then when he opens his wings, the lead ones come up, and the other ones are attached to it, so they follow. Because we wanted to make that different. We wanted to make that different feel between him and the other fairies, and it worked out so well just by doing a different kind of bug. People loved him. I mean, they followed him everywhere. It was really wonderful.
That's incredible. It's kind of cool that you're bringing up the idea of cat calls as well, and the fact that you do make wings and making those slight adjustments that have essentially, I would say that a dragonfly wing might have more of a connotation that's more similar to like a male energy or a masculine energy as opposed to the feminine energy of fairy wings. Like as soon as you say fairy wings, I understand what you're saying, especially when it comes to cat calls. I've experienced that without the wings and not always fun. But so it's fascinating that like with your work, you can also have such an impact as far as storytelling goes and putting prominent symbols into major projects that people are consuming, this media that people are consuming and understanding and digesting those connotations that are associated with them and starting to blur those lines. And I guess just because International Women's Day is top of the mind for me and how we understand femininity in the storytelling that we put out there. I'm super fascinated by those nuances. That's really cool.
Hey, let's reset the room a little bit here, like on that other platform that they talk about. Everybody take a little breath and thank the Car Hungers for their hosting. And we're ready for Helen to do, thank you, some hosting. And Kaylee and DefCat, please stay. I will stay in the background as much as I can. And I think we might have another guest come too. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Car Hungers, thank you very much. That was awesome of you to join us.
We'll talk to you soon, Rob.
Talk to you. And let's move Helen over there to the number one position there.
I thought I'd already said my bit. I said what I needed to say.
Oh, you're not done. You just get to keep. You're good at this, Helen. You're
I'm just bubbling under the surface.
Helen,
I don't know. Do you know what? My tea has been depleted. It's an empty cup, and it's needing refilled.
Let me run. Let me run through Kaylee's, up through Dav, across the world, and over to you. There you go. That's not tea, is it, Dev?
I don't know which.
He's trying.
We're both trying to pass along our teas. You should never run out of tea. That was the first thing that I made for myself, especially because
I've consumed a whole cup and it's empty, and I need another one.
You should be like, revolution. Where's the craft services on this show?
Right. I know it's tough when we're virtual like this, but I'll send some drivers around to bring you some food.
Love
that? Uber Eats.
I'm just trying to catch up with all the comments, and there are some people commenting from Periscope, and I want to address those people. Yes, we can see your comments. We cannot reply to them we can't type replies to them. So obviously, when we're in the middle of having a conversation, it's hard to interject. But yes, we see your comments. So keep sending them in. It's absolutely fine. We can read you fine.
Yeah, and I'm still learning how to respond to. Is there a way that you can respond directly to people? I see that there's an app symbol.
Only if they're on HAPS. If they're on the HAPS app, yes, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get through the comments to reply to everyone. But if they're coming in from elsewhere, the only way you can reply to that is, physically talking to the person, because they won't get the typed reply.
So when, like, for instance, Jack Torrance just made a comment and has the Twitter symbol next to his name. So does that mean he's commenting from Twitter?
Correct. But you can't type a reply to that or he won't see it.
Oh,
but he knows you've read it because you've name checked him.
Awesome.
So he knows that you can see his comment.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, I should learn this because I'm going live tomorrow. So I'm still trying to.
So are you just new to the app then? So is it Kaylee or Callie?
Kaylee.
Are you just new to HAPS?
I am. I mean, I feel like I can say I'll be new tomorrow because I feel like I'm pre-new. Whatever is before new, that's me when it comes to HAPS. I'm still
super new.
I'm super uber duper new, and I'm very grateful that my podcast co-host, I guess I should mention that I also, along with acting, writing, and directing, have been producing and co-hosting a podcast called We're Totally Not Okay, which focuses on the intersection between mass media, culture, and mental health. And I've been running that for a couple of years, and it's a passion project that just kept growing, so I couldn't stop. And we took a break when midway through the lockdown, when Revolution got in touch with me, and I was introduced to this platform, HAPS TV, which I love because it's particularly set up for broadcast journalists, and that's my background. I decided that it would be really cool to take a look at how we might transition into this platform and still be able to keep the material in podcast format as well, because we do belong to a network, so we'll have to maintain that output. But my partner for that
download. I was going to say you can download your. Obviously, you could either record the audio through a desk, or you can download the video and convert that to audio. So you can do a broadcast here and still have a file that you can later edit for your podcast without having to do two things.
So you can just download the file afterwards.
You can download the video file, and I'm presuming you can convert that, to audio somehow. There'll be an audio converter.
I know how to audio. Yep, I know how to convert files afterwards, but I just wasn't aware whether or not I would have to set up something beforehand in order to download it. Cool.
No, you should be able to just, in your profile, you should be able to go to that broadcast and download the broadcast on the desktop. I don't know if you can do it on mobile, but you can do it on the desktop.
Very cool. Women helping women on International Women's Day. Very happy about that.
This platform has so much potential. Honestly, it's really funny watching the comments, because I'm from Periscope originally. I'm a Periscope refugee, and you get the Periscope people who are used to seeing Periscope, and it's we need this, we need that. Can you change this? Can you change that? And it's really finicky little things, and you actually look at the potential of what's already on HAPS without them altering anything. And you think this, just blows Periscope out of the water. In terms of, the interface is maybe slightly harder to, read from a viewer's point of view in certain ways, but those are little things. Like you look at what you're capable of here. It's got so much potential. Honestly, I think that you're going to have a great time here. If you're doing podcasting or you're doing sort of broadcasting anyway. I'm similar. I have a radio show, but because of COVID, the live station was shut down, so I'm recording from home. So although mine is music based, it's the same situation. It's you're recording through the desk or whatever, but there's so much potential for HAPS. I think you'll flourish.
I'm super excited. I never really had much experience with Periscope. And to be honest,
you weren't missing anything.
What's that?
Saying you weren't missing anything. It went right down the hill at the end.
I'm happy to hear that. I have severe FOMO, so I'm glad I wasn't missing anything on that. My friend, the only really experience that I ever had on it was another filmmaker friend of mine invited me over to watch. He had teamed up with Blumhouse and did the first live action film paired with Paris and Blumhouse. So it was actually performed, it was rehearsed and performed like a theater play, so that it would basically they fooled a bunch of audience members into thinking something actually happened for real, when really it was actors who were putting on this staged occurrence. And he's a horror filmmaker, so it was as if the killer had basically put it out to the audience that if anybody wants to stop him before he on Halloween night goes and targets this particular house. And it was very, he's a very guerrilla style filmmaker. And so he did have people calling the cops and thinking it was real, and it was a big so that's all I know about Periscope. And I kind of stayed away from that because it was pretty extreme for my liking, but I understand his out of the box thinking with it.
I think it became a different animal towards the last couple of years. I think it became more the broadcasters just weren't supported in any kind of way from the Twitter team, and it was overrun with trolls. So that combination of those two things made it really difficult to actually have a fun experience there. And a lot of people who are on HAPS have come from Periscope, and it feels very much like the early days of Periscope. You know, it feels like there is a community here. People are being supportive and want to see each other do well, and you know, will jump in and, you know, help you out or whatever. Periscope was like that at the start, and then all the trolls sort of, it was too easy to make multiple accounts and have literally hundreds of accounts sitting there so that when one got blocked you can jump in with it. It was too easy. It was almost like Twitter enabled that to happen. So it's fun again. It's fun to broadcast again.
Oh, good.
Which is, and I think a lot of people are saying the same thing.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a big part of it. Like you said, when you are a product maker, and especially as women, I feel like moving into the entertainment industry and moving on to new platforms, moving into new communities, there is a commonality that I've started recognizing, having conversations with other female creators who have experienced, you know, the extra hurdles that we have to hop over because it has traditionally been a male-dominated, the entertainment industry in particular, I guess I'm referring to, a male-dominated industry. Hollywood has its roots, and even when it comes to different, I mean, these new platforms that are popping up, they are the opportunities for those who don't want to be contained by a system that is so constraining, I suppose.
I understand what you're saying. In the traditional sense, there's a power play. Okay, those at the top, those, you know, the ones that are in charge are predominantly male. So you are in a, whereas on what this does is it levels the playing field.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think that those at the top, because the ratio, yes, is still very male heavy. I think that that's probably just because of historically and the evolution and the time that it did take for them to rise to the top. So it makes sense, and I understand that. However, I am also grateful that a lot of the people who, at least people that I've been connecting with who are in those positions of power, who are also cis male, are you know, the mentality, the zeitgeist is changing, and they don't have the same kind of domineering influence, and they are creating more spaces and opportunities for women. I mean, I'm pretty sure that correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that the app creators of HAPS TV are male, if I'm not mistaken, and take a look at what we're able to do right now on International Women's Day, which is incredible. There are spaces opening up.
To be fair, I was thinking about this earlier. I know that Lucia is a really treasured member of the team, but I can't think of any other female members of the HAPS team. I think it is all male. And it's a tech it's the tech industry again, that predominantly attracts male people working in that industry. But I was thinking about this earlier today. It is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know HAPS boys. How many ladies have you got on your team? I'd love to know.
And also, thank you for having us and for creating the space.
Indeed.
It's funny. I felt that same sort of. I think I felt a fear actually earlier when this morning I was on, or midday, I was on a room on Clubhouse, another app that I think Revolution was mentioning before. That's actually where we met. And I was in a room with Hollywood executives and expecting to chat and ask a question. And I think that the fear that I brought was just my own internal fear, was not brought upon me by anybody in the room, but I was put on the spot because of a story about singing. I had entered a room that same moderator was running yesterday, and as soon as I entered, he said, "Okay, Kaylee, are you ready to sing us a song just to refresh the room?" And there just happened to be a Broadway singer named Kaylee who was also in the room, and she was the one who was supposed to be singing, but I fully assumed he was asking me to sing. And so we were chatting about this, and he's like, "Oh, so you sing?" And he put me on the spot and made me sing today. And it was that same fear of, I think maybe because it comes from that place of maybe a similar place to thinking, I almost have to prove myself to belong because I wasn't expecting that, and being put on the spot. It's like, now here's your opportunity to shine. It was an interesting moment, and one that now I want to do.
Sing? That's the key question.
What's that?
Did you sing?
I did. I sang like a couple of lines to a song that I think kind of like
a storm in the room. Did you get them all? Happy.
I started singing a Disney song, actually. I think because the other Broadway singer, like, that's sort of what the tone was that she was singing. And for some reason, my brain couldn't think of any other song at the moment. I'm like, I don't know any lines, but for some reason, a Cinderella song came to me. So I started singing, what is it? A dream is a wish your heart makes. And then I sang like a couple of lines and realized I don't know any of the lines. So I stopped.
No matter how your heart is breathing, if you keep on believing. Take it away, Kaylee. Take it away. Finish it off.
Oh, no. I would want to sing something completely different now. I am so not in the mood to be a Disney princess. Especially with International Women's Day, I have now put on repeat. I don't know if you know the song by Desiree, Gotta Be.
You'll have to sing it and my memory.
Oh God, I asked for this. I have to pull up the lyrics.
Do you know what's very frustrating about this app, HAPS boys? I hope you're listening. It's impossible to do karaoke because of the delay. You need to get that so everybody can sing at the same time. That's your next challenge. Get it on your roadmap.
Okay. HAPS team, this is our cry for karaoke. And it's going to be songs music. Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard. You gotta be tough. You gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. You gotta stick together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, reading the books your father read, trying to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view, My, oh, my. Hey. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stick together. All I know, love will save the day. Hey!
Woohoo! Round of applause. I've missed so many comments. Let's scroll through them and see what we've missed. Presumably, hopefully, it'll all be praise.
Jump in, Dab. Someone's saying jump in. You gotta sing now with me, a duet.
It's impossible until they fix the lag.
Soon. I'm probably gonna try to force my guests on my show tomorrow once I start the podcast up on here to just see what happens with you. It'll be a monstrosity.
I want to see this. I hope I'll be there. I'll be watching.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I feel like it fits with the title of our podcast show. It's called We're Totally Not Okay. So we've given ourselves the license to just do everything wrong.
Oh, crikey.
Karaoke time. Yes, people are into the karaoke.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're starting a motion. People are going to be signing a petition to get the HAPS team to make karaoke.
I think they've got so many things that they're working on, but we can just add to the list.
Yeah, you're not.
It's not like they've got like tons of other stuff to do first,
right?
Okay. As female entertainers, are you all able to support self-fund, or do you need corporate sponsorship to make a living?
Is that a question in the feed here?
As a question in the cheap seats, as I like to call them. Do you want to respond to that, Kaylee?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the question. Can you read that?
JG Walsh, I'll read it out. As female entertainers, are you all able to support self-fund, or do you need corporate sponsorship to make a living?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely other streams of income, especially with the projects that, like now that I'm moving into larger and larger budgets for the projects that I'm creating, yes, I look towards not just sponsors, but deals with distribution companies that are going to secure financiers. It's kind of, usually I'll get, my manager or publicist to help secure those deals, because as far as doing festival runs with projects and then trying to get it into the hands of distributors or buyers, those sorts of approaches, they'll work if you have made a short film and you were able to, raise just enough money to make that. But a lot of the times when you're moving into other bigger projects, you want to secure the money up front, because it's not a viable strategy to try to self-fund project after project and still expect to find that kind of growth. Now with the podcast, for instance, that I have, that has been almost entirely out of my own pocket because it was a passion project. And naturally, I guess organically, we started having sponsors approach us. So it wasn't intentional, I suppose, to develop an income stream with that project. But as far as my filmmaking goes, and as an actor, there are very few projects that I take on that are not paying anymore. So those ones have to be very special, or for directors or filmmaker friends that I really love.
And how are you finding that COVID has affected that? Because, as a creative myself, with fingers in multiple different pies, in that regard, it's affected everything in the creative industries. I work with bands, the gigs have all been cancelled, the venues are all shut down. How are you finding that you've been affected financially by the COVID situation?
There was definitely a huge pause. I think because I have multiple income streams, and those were also affected. I ran a studio in the West End of Toronto that I just didn't feel safe operating. Even before we went into an incredible lockdown, I didn't feel safe operating at the same capacity that I was running the space for. And there were a couple of different uses that, I'm also a photographer, so I was making a good chunk of my income that way, and having other podcasters come into that studio to utilize it, even just at discounted rates through the network, if they're coming, being recommended through the network that we're already a part of. But it was starting to develop outside of that. We were having other films come and book out the studio and use it for shoots. So I had other income streams that kind of affected everything. And as far as acting went, yes, there was a scramble and a halt across the boards. But oddly enough, and I'm in a very fortunate situation. I had so much disruption, been very safe. I've always had a roof over my head. I've always had food on the table, and I haven't had to worry about that because I do, as a writer, I get to work from home, and that income stream didn't stop for me. So I have been secure, and I also have been able to quickly adapt to the virtual process for auditioning. I'm also fortunate enough that I have good equipment for audio voiceover auditions because of my passion with the podcast.
Yep.
So personally, I've been in a fortunate and albeit even sometimes fun situation. I do admit that a lot of that fear that I was talking about before started coming back to now having to learn a different process to approach the craft. And even with my short film, it is sometimes a little bit more challenging to bring our production team together to have our meetings, but we have, Zoom and these platforms to now connect that we're finding solutions. Just like I'm assuming, you've transitioned to broadcasting from home. Everybody and the earlier guests reorganizing their entire business to fit a new world that we're stepping into.
I hate the phrase new normal, but we seem to be brainwashed with that new normal. We've all had to adapt in some way. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Michelle Alexander, just saw my name mentioned. Good that you're multifaceted and able to pivot during these times. Pivot's a great word. And you know what? I'm glad that you're using that word. Yes, pivoting is super important when especially to recognize that you do have other opportunities or other talents or other strengths or other income streams, just even other connections, like now getting to meet you on this app, and this was not going to be my night. I think I would have had kind of a sadder night tonight. Like I was exhausted, and I got in from a run. I was literally on a run when I was texting with Revolution about coming on, and my energy was I was drained. And the idea of pivoting, it was like a spark moment. It was like a Malcolm Gladwell Blink moment where I'm like, yeah, I can either go home and be exhausted and probably crawl into bed or like watch a movie that will help me cathartically cry something out that I probably need to release, or I can be a succubus and come meet wonderful women and just feed off of your energy. And
the coffee will have helped as well. I see that you've still got your cup in your hand, and I'm still depleted. It's not fair. I'm going to go through. There are so many comments, and I've got 40 new comments at the moment. I haven't read them, so I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Molly B says, I wish Hollywood would cast actual LGBTQ plus actors in LGBTQ roles and make more movies and TV shows with us in them with roles. That makes sense. Michelle Alexander says, women in tech and people of colour in tech need to get opportunities in education and recruitment. JJ Walsh, I know a lot of men who are able to make a living on YouTube and other online platforms, but very few women doing it successfully to fund themselves. And obviously, I would like to chime in there. There's an expectation somehow that if women are putting out content, it has to be sexual in some kind of way. There's an assumption that a woman's OnlyFans will be, nude or implied nude, but it's okay for a man to, put out content that's not that. There is a disparity there. There's an assumption and an expectation almost. I don't know if anybody else would like to chime in on that while I read through the rest of the comments.
I mean, Dav, I don't know if are you having audio issues? Can you chime in? I don't hear you. Oh, you do have.
I don't hear her either.
Okay.
Maybe refresh your browser, maybe, Dev.
Yeah, maybe you refresh your browser, I suppose.
Oh, that's just my Wi-Fi dipping out. I'm still here.
Okay.
There we
I'm
go.
like, are we refreshing devices?
Sometimes the camera just disconnects for a split second and then comes back.
I thought maybe you were gone to get a cup of tea.
No. I wouldn't leave you here alone to do that. That's harsh.
But that comment, oh, Dav, can we hear you now?
Let's see. Can you hear?
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. Did you want to chime in on that comment about that differentiation?
Well, I do political analysis and commentary mostly on my Periscope show, but my husband always jokes that clearly to monetize what I do or to make it more popular, I should be taking my shirt off or doing
Open
something.
Bob.
So that's just.
Oh, wow.
What did you say, Helen?
I said open Bobs. Show Bobs.
Show
Bobs.
Show Bobs, because if you said boobs or breasts, the Periscope would catch that and it wouldn't allow the comment to come through. So you'd got all these Turkish men coming in saying show Bobs, open Bobs.
Wow, I never had that. I did have one person say, "Can we see pictures of your feet?"
Oh, that was the feet. Yeah. No, I can't believe you haven't come across open Bobs. That's a running book.
No Bobs.
Oh, okay.
I think that I'm going to start calling them bobs instead of boobs because that's just fun for me. But the fact that you're mentioning feet, which has always weirded me out, I made the mistake one night of my friend and I started Googling. There's like a wiki feet. There are pages that are actually dedicated to feet and people who have foot fetishes. And I have a page apparently on there that someone has collected like every image that has my feet in them.
Creepy.
Like, I guess everybody has their own thing, but yeah, I was not feeling super comfortable about it.
It's even worse. Not only is it creepy, but you're not getting paid for that content. On an OnlyFans somewhere.
At least send me a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes. Like, what am I getting out of this? Yeah, no, I absolutely, I feel, from my own personal experiences, that pressure, being a woman in the industry and the expectations, especially for the ratio of auditions I've gone into that are more so leaning towards cheerleader number 3 or something that is just, it's done, people. Let's be better storytellers because I don't even think the viewers find that interesting anymore. Let's get more interesting with our characters, with the heroes of our story. I want to play gremlins in everything I do. Someone cast me as a gremlin, please.
Yep. Bravo. I think
Oh, well, if we're closing down for International Women's Day, then maybe I can say this point that I've been itching to talk about as well, which is female villainy. Because I think the cultural representation of female villains has become a lot more interesting over the last few years. And I think that's feminism driving the more fuller embrace of our humanity, that men can be soft and emotional and women can be hard-ass, outright villains, and that we need that to shatter the expectation glass of women's being the guardian of all that is good and pure and nice. Because it's, even if people don't intuitively see that, it's a restriction, it's a constraint, and it results in things in the legal world, such as women getting much more punitive, longer jail sentences than men for the worst crimes. So women who murder their partner have an average of a 12 to 15 year jail sentence, and men have an average of a 3 to 6 year jail sentence. That's the figures I think I came across the other day, just because it's seen as such a horrific aberration for women to kill, whereas a man does it. And it's like, oh, yep, well, you must have been under duress, 3 to 6 years for you. And that would be a nice area to have more recognition of our fully rounded humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I love that you brought that up in particular because that concept itself is at the heart of the feature film that I'm writing. And I would love to see more stories that fill in the gambit between the mythological dichotomy that we have of either being the Madonna, pristine and virginal, and the Maleficent or Medusa or pure sadistic red scarlet type witch. It's like you only have those two categories that mythologically speaking have been presented to us as our options, and there is just so much more interesting matter to play within those nuances in between. And I think that
and even outside of acting roles, I think there's so many relationships that are probably ruined by men having that Madonna whore complex, where they either have to see women as pristine and pure and worthy of chasing, and then once they've married someone, they're like, well, I can't have I can't have sex with you because you're the Madonna person, and I have to go outside and have relationships with other people because that's how I gratify my base emotions with a whore, and then keep the Madonna who I've married. And it's like, oh, that's not very good for relationships, and that's another limitation of that patriarchal dichotomy of we can be one of these two things, that we're denied that full gradation of experience and being.
Oh, I'm going to want to have you on my podcast. I want to talk so much more about this.
It's unfortunate that we have so little time and that we're wrapping up. And I think we need to do a whole show just on that topic.
Yes, please.
And I would love to contribute to that if you decide to go ahead and do that, because there's a lot to be said, but that I can't say right now.
Yeah, I would love both of you to come onto the podcast.
So much that I would love to come. I thank you. We've been
directed by the powers that be to
wrap it up.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, we had a double. Okay, wrap it up, everybody. Come to my show here in 15 minutes. We'll keep the dialogue going if you want, or do it another time, or do it with Helen. But I'm getting out of here. I'm not wrapping this up. You guys wrap it up.
Thanks, Rev.
I'll keep the conversation going post-show. We can do that. I'm going to continue this conversation, hopefully with Kaylee and Helen on the podcast on another occasion, and we're going to spend an hour talking about the Madonna whore duopoly and how women can be limited by positive stereotypes as well as negative stereotypes. So much to talk about.
So much, and just not enough time.
No, and so are we wrapping up right now, finishing?
I believe that we are. We fried someone's brain. I'm terribly sorry that that's happened. We need more coffee. Coffee is always the answer. Okay, folks, we shall. What else is there to say? Wrap up quickly with your details, your name, where people can find you, and all that kind of stuff, and tell them, where to hunt you down. And we'll say cheery bye, go.
Sure. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me tonight for International Women's Day. You made my day. I'm so happy that I was able to pop on. My name's Kaylee Legrand. I'm an actor, writer, director up in Canada. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, I'm, I guess, more prominent on Instagram and Twitter. Those are probably the easiest channels to reach out and follow me there. I would love to hear from everybody, and I'd love to be back and have you guys on my show tomorrow or afterwards. Tomorrow we're starting, so afterwards when I figure it out.
So can we type in the comments what your social media? Are you the same name on all social media, or?
I think so. I just put in my handle, which I'm gonna double check. See, this is why I need a publicist, because I clearly.
Do you have your social media connected to your profile? Can people find it on your profile page?
I think so. I think my Twitter is connected, and if I was savvy enough to.
There we go. Car Hunger's done it for you. Thank you so much. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
I am obviously a lady on here that you can see, and you can find me elsewhere by searching for Radio Leggy on the interwebs. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been, how long has the marathon been running? Is it 4.5 hours? Was it a double marathon? Peter, Pablo, how long has it been going? Has it been going all day? Anyone?
Mueller.
I'm waiting to find out how long it's been going. This particular broadcast is 4.5 hours, but so was the previous one 4.5 as well. Anyway, it's been going the whole day, so 10 hours. There you go. So for those of you who joined in the audience in the cheap seats, for those of you who were, in on the call-ins, thank you all for taking part. Hopefully this could be a thing, or maybe there will be no need for International Women's Day. Who knows what the future may hold. But thanks for popping in. Who's closing it down? Rev, are you still in the driving seat? Or the Haps team closing it down?
See him.
Fabulous. Thanks, Haps. Okay, guys. Lovely to see you. Fantastic to meet you, ladies.
Lovely to meet you, Helen and Kaylee. Thanks for womening it up on women.
Thank you.